So, so the Children's Investment Fund Foundation is a foundation based in originally from the UK. Our offices are largest here. Was established in 2002, and it has now become one of the largest, if not the largest, philanthropic organization that focuses exclusively or specifically on improving children's lives. So in addition to climate, which has become a very important topic for us, we focus on child health and development, adolescent sexual and reproductive health, equality for girls, child protection, and as I said, of course, climate, which we see intrinsically linked with everything else that the foundation does. We strongly believe in being local and have foots on the ground. So we have offices, as I said, not only in London, but now also in Nairobi, in Addis Ababa, in Delhi, and in Beijing, as China represents a really important part of our climate portfolio. Our endowment over the last 20 years has grown to be $6 billion, so not as impressive as Wellcome, but it's still significant. And it is also Paris aligned. So we have a very strict ESG policy that requires all of the companies invested in the endowment to produce a climate action plan, to publish that to TCI, to our hedge fund manager, and for that to be something that can be benchmarked against the CA100 plus climate action benchmark. So we are very much driving decarbonization in our endowment as we continue to deepen our work on grant making. On the grant making front, we have been increasing the percentage of the endowment that is dedicated to grants over the last 20 years, and now it sits in over $350 million, of which for the first time on the climate space, it represented almost half of that, with over $150 million, and we expect to give out more this year. Since we make multi-year, multi-million-dollar commitments for the most part, the active portfolio of climate grants right now sits at over $600 million on climate grants, $1.5 billion on incorporating the other issues that I mentioned on children. So why does a children's organization work on climate? We've been asked. We started 10 years ago. So as I said, in the early days, the foundation has been in operation for over 20 years, and climate became an important part of the work that we do about 10 years ago. So as we continue, and the original mission was on child health and malnutrition in developing countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, our founder, Sir Christopher Hahn, realized, and that with the board and the executive, that you cannot be working on children's issues and expect that the outcomes that we are seeking on reduction of malnutrition and improvement on child health without addressing the climate crisis. It is a very serious problem that makes a big difference for children living in poverty if you really tackle the climate change challenge, as Hugh's presentation earlier on and Dr. Gitahi has made abundantly clear. Sir Christopher Hahn is very often quoted saying that he wants to solve problems and not just give grants. So in that business mentality, business approach to our grant making, he felt that we really needed to dive into the climate crisis if we wanted to solve the child health issue. So we have seen a changing climate threatens absolutely everything. It's more than an environmental issue. It cuts across social and economic issues, include poverty, gender, health, and so much more. So it really connects in our mind with our children's program, with our work in Africa, and with everything that's all of the outcomes that we want to see in improving food security, water scarcity, reducing migration, increased child safety, and obviously stop the spread of deadly disease. And as he also said, it really is for us a matter of justice. The poorest countries are disproportionately affected and vulnerable, and yet these countries are the least responsible for climate change. That doesn't mean that acting forcefully on climate change on these countries is also not only on their benefit, but that's of globally. So how did we start going? And perhaps Florence, then in the panel, I can say what challenges we face. But how did we start? As I said, we started our journey on climate giving about 10 years ago in 2010. And we wanted to go where we started in Europe and where we thought we could have the biggest impact, since we are a Europe-based foundation. So we first initially focused on stopping coal. And stopping coal for us became, something that remains actually a very big part of our portfolio, and that one some work that we do beyond Europe now, pretty much in all of the geographies where we operate. Coal is not only the dirtiest and most polluting industry in the world, but also contributes has contributed historically most to climate, but also to human ill health and early death. The linkages to air pollution, water pollution, mental health issues, as has been put in the chat, are just enormous, and the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. But over time, we have taken on more sectors, obviously, because even if you get rid of coal completely, we still have plenty of emissions left. So we need to promote the alternatives. So we work very on promoting renewables, but also sustainable cities, addressing air pollution, and also in decarbonizing other sectors, including industry and the food system. And the food system, together with deforestation, as we know, is also a major driver of not only of climate change, but also of tremendous health impacts and biodiversity loss. We also invest in cross-cutting solutions, in the sense that it is not only technical assistance or grassroots mobilization, is that and more. Climate diplomacy, we're also funding litigation. We find the courts tremendous allies in actually enforcing existing laws, but also setting precedents and that are incredibly helpful. And for example, the latest ruling against Shell, brought forward by youth, is very powerful, and so many other cases that are very inspiring. Obviously, on finance, the finance sector has been asleep on this, not realizing the absolute crisis that is coming upon them and the fiduciary risk that they are undertaking. So we are working on that as well. And as I said, this is a global program. So we work in Europe because we are a European foundation. About a third of our funding stays here, but 2/3 are international, meaning outside of Europe and obviously outside of the US. So China, India, South and Southeast Asia, Africa and Latin America are also areas, geographies in the world where we work. So now it really is the time for decisive action. We really have no time left. I love the quote that Hugh brought of the youth activists on a COP, and the science is telling us that we must act. And even though it would appear that there is more and more funding coming into climate, it is still a drop in the ocean, an absolute drop in the ocean. When it comes to philanthropy, less than 2% of global philanthropy actually is spent on these issues. It's insane, given the threat that we are facing. And we have found that over the last 10 years, as we have grown, that the absorption capacity of the field is tremendous. The opportunity for impact is vast. And so just get going and just maximize the scale that you can afford is the way to go, because there is so many entry points and so many ways of making a difference. But we, frankly, right now, what we need is just more resources and more people acting on these issues, because however you look at it, or whatever you care about, this is a topic that will be relevant. Thank you, Florence. Over to you.